Thank you all for being here. Senator Metz, you are awesome. Please read your emails tomorrow. You have everybody stomping and cheering for you, for sticking up for the life of the unborn, for the innocents. You're tops. I've never met you, but I love you. Okay. There's so much I wanted to say, and I'm not going to say everything I was going to because it's getting late, but I'm going to tell you more of my story. I come from a big family, and you can ask me questions later. I'm just going to do it lightly, but I have a big family, and there's a lot of things, bad things that happened. My mom, she was born in 1929. She was under 3 pounds when she was born. She was kept in a shoebox on a stove to keep her warm. Under 3 pounds, 90 years ago, she lived. You can be that premature and live even 90 years ago with just enough care and enough love to get you through. She later was put in an orphanage where she was raped. They gave the baby up for adoption. Steve, my brother, fought for the rights to find your birth mother right here in Rhode Island. He called us. When I was about 35, he found out he had 10 brothers and sisters. My mom ended up with TB when she was pregnant with my sister Janet. The medications made her a special needs child. They wanted my mom to put her in an institution. They said she wouldn't live past 7. She's 63 now. She lives at home with one of my sisters. She is a precious gift from God. She's 5 in her mind. She's half deaf, half blind. And if she saw you in the supermarket, she would go up to you and she would touch you. And she'd say, "Can I pay for you? Can I pay for you?" And she'd start her babbling, and the presence of the Lord would just fall on you because she is so concerned about every person in this world. She'll have tears in her eyes if she hears somebody's sick. But that's a precious gift from God that they tried to kill. They wanted her gone. And my mother said, "No, she's coming home with us." My mother told me when I was 25 that she tried to abort me. I was having problems with my 3rd pregnancy, a lot of bleeding, and they said they weren't sure. So she said, "Gail, I have to tell you something." She says, "When I was pregnant with you," she says, "I went and had an abortion." She said, "It was a backdoor place with a hanger." She says, "We thought we succeeded. They killed my sibling. I was a twin. God protected me in the womb." My older sister had an abortion when she was 16. She died last year at 69. She still had nightmares about the baby moving after being thrown on the table beside her, still moving, until the moments when it finally stopped moving. I went and lived with her for 2 years, a few years ago, and she still woke up most nights crying, and she'd say, "I can't forget. I can never forget." I talked to her 2 weeks before she died, and she said, "Maybe I'll get to see my child," she says, "and maybe I can tell her, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." So I'm sure she's in her arms right now. In the early 90s, after Roe v. Wade, I was in a prayer group, and we would pray and travel to D.C. to pray at the Supreme Court. Tom Smith was one of the lawyers advocating for the young girls and women who were mutilated and or killed at these abortion clinics. They would sneak them out, like people are saying they don't need the parents' permission. Well, what happened even back then was they would take them out of the schools and they would bring them for abortions at the clinics without the parents knowing. They said the parents didn't have the right to know. The kids were scared to let the parents know, so they got permission from other people to take these innocent children, 12, 14-year-olds, to the abortion clinics during school hours. The kids would be sent home after school on the buses. The parents would find their child bleeding at night, and they would rush them to the hospital. "I don't know what's wrong," and the doctors would tell them, "Oh, it's a botched abortion." That's what Tom Smith did for a living. He fought these cases in the Supreme Court. He was an advocate for the victims of Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics. The children that you're now lessening the regulations in these abortion clinics and stuff. A veterinary clinic has more regulations and laws than an abortion clinic does. You're lessening them. In these bills, it's less than it was before. You're minimizing them, but you're protecting the abortion doctors. You're protecting the abortion clinics. You're protecting the insurance companies. You're protecting Planned Parenthood. How about protecting the innocent? How about protecting the babies? How about trying to do some laws for adoption, make adoption easier, give these kids a place to live instead of finding a way to kill them? They deserve to live. Once that woman decides that that baby is to be aborted and she doesn't want that baby, if that baby comes out alive, once that baby comes out, that baby exists. He's breathing. They're crying. They're moving. That child has every right to be expected to have somebody take care and comfort and provide what's needed for him to continue existing. I worked in labor and delivery for 8 years. I watched people who came in. They had babies that were sick or deformed or would never be normal. They loved those babies when they came out. And you know what the horrendous part was? Was you would get somebody in the other room on the other table and they'd be saying, I don't even want to see that kid. She said, it's just another few more bucks in the check. Well, these people are dying for these babies. They're loving them. They're holding them in their arms until they finish passing. They say, he's not going to live long. You're lucky. Anencephalics, when the brain comes down like that, sometimes they'll last, a couple of hours, and those parents sit there. You put a beanie on their head to cover it so you don't see the brain falling out, and they hug and they love on that child until that child passes in their arm, and then they spend more time, and then they have to take pictures because they never want to forget that precious thing. Yet you guys want to just take them and throw them away.
Ma'am, can I just ask you, based upon time, to start wrapping up?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll switch it to the end part because the worst parts are coming. The laws already in existence cover mother and child life or death situations. These laws already allow abortions up to 24 weeks, 5 months. If the women do not know by then or have not made up their mind, they should not have a right to intentionally kill that child. That is murder. Most late-term abortions are alive and breathing, moving, and even crying when they come out in the world. They have the right to life. If the mother didn't want the child, there are many people who would be willing and able to protect it from the evil intentions of these doctors and congresspeople. Why are our elected officials not pushing to make it easier to adopt these children instead of pushing to murder and kill them? 6 Democrats running for president in 2020 voted last week to kill or leave alone to die any child born alive after an abortion attempt, even full-term babies. Child sacrifice, murder. President Trump has an executive order, crimes against humanity. What greater crime to humanity is there than to murder our children after they are born alive? I hope that all these people will be held accountable under this executive order. What really happens to these babies after they are born alive? This is the most frightening part of this whole thing. There's no accountability, no way to criminally charge those who do heinous crimes to these children. These bills do not protect the innocent ones. They could be sold alive to pedophile rings, sex or human organ rings, trafficking rings, occults. There's no accountability, no way to find out what happened. After you term this an abortion, what documentation do you have? What type of rules and regulations are these Planned Parenthoods and stuff to do to show what happened to this baby? That's the biggest horror. What happens to these children afterwards? And we don't have the right to know, do we? We don't have the laws to cover that. We don't have the data to prove what happens to these children. By the way, New York voted to save caterpillars and moths the same day they voted to kill human children. How will our elected officials vote? After the abortion attempt for my mother, I always consider myself a survivor. I don't consider myself a victim. Right now, the silent majority is woken up, and we're going to fight. We're not going to sit back and let you do this horrendous thing without a fight. And I just want to make that clear. I don't join any organization because most of them say, well, don't say much. Well, you know what? I'm a survivor. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I will fight to the end for these innocent that can't speak for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much.